prophets, messiahs, and those chosen by God can be so boring. Oh yeah, I'll turn this water into wine and rub mud in your eyes.
Oh my god, shut up, man. So goddamn boring.
What if instead the Messiah was a mute who traded your sins for swag and looked tough as Blasphemous is a Metroidvania with a Spanish folklore-inspired setting that takes place in a mythical land called Custodia. The inhabitants of Custodia fervently worship something called the Miracle, which is some invisible, unknowable force that bestows blessings upon those it deems as worthy. And I use blessings in the loosest sense of the word, whether that be eternal physical torment in an undying body, or eternal life in exchange for a painting that's strapped to your back that siphons away your youth and beauty, or you could just be turned into a tree. The miracle works in strange ways, and beyond our mortal comprehension. In Blasphemous, you play as the Penitent One, the last of a long-dead organization called the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrow, who has been chosen and brought back from the other side of the dream by the miracle. But hold up a second, Blasphemy, I hear you whimper. Who is the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrows? How does this revelation affect the socio-economic climate of Custodia? Will this affect my parents' divorce? And who is this guy called the Penitent One? All will be revealed in due time, my dear viewer. Remember when you were a young jit in school and you would low-curcularly act out and get told to sit in the corner by your teacher? Well, think of your teacher being God, and you acting out is a sin against God, and your way to amend for your wrongdoings and seek forgiveness is sitting in the corner. This is like roughly what penance is as a concept. So through the use of critical thinking and reading in between the lines, we can deduce that the Penitent One must be carrying out a penance of some kind. Wow, you're so astute and smart, aren't you? You're such a good. In the Penitent One's case, his penance is a vow of silence that not even he himself can break. While we don't know much about the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrow or what the Penitent One's sin against God was, we do know that every member took a vow of silence that was inspired by the first miracle of Custodia, the Twisted One, otherwise referred to as the Father. However, for some reason, the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrow had fallen into disgrace prior to the Penitent One's resurrection, which is thought to have been due to some past event that put the Brotherhood in opposition of the miracle's greatest agent, His Holiness Escribá, causing the annihilation of the Order. Not much is known about the Brotherhood or actions that caused the Penitent One to become chosen by the miracle. However, we do get a little insight from a prequel comic called The Kneeling that was released to Kickstarter and given to the most loyal of kickers. We begin with the Penitent One putting on a mask and meeting a character named Desimperados, a woman blessed by the miracle. The blessing in question was having her youth and beauty sealed into a portrait while her real body slowly withers and rots. Desimperados guides the Penitent One to the Sword of the Fathers, which is the weapon of choice for the Penitent One during the entirety of Blasphemous 1, and a sword we come to know as the Mea Culpa. The Penitent One is also told by Desimperados about how he has been chosen by the miracle, as his vow of silence has now become irreversible, which is a gift, I guess, according to this hag-looking bitch. And then the Penitent One gets low-diff by Chrysanta of the Rapt Agony, who totally doesn't make any more appearances and is super unimportant to the Blasphemous' greater plot. A San Benito was a penitential garment popularly used by wholesome Big Chunga's organization, the Spanish Inquisition. Those deemed heretics by the Inquisition would commonly be draped in San Benitos and wear masks called capirotes, which are pointy hats that are supposed to be a statement about paying more attention to the bro god. And yes, my dear viewer, the capirote did inspire the Penitent One's toughest fuck mask, and was also used in hell-inspired World War I setting Trench Crusade. And yeah, that's about it. Capirotes were commonly worn by, get ready for this, penitents, who were for the most part just people practicing alt religions to the Inquisition's cooler and hipper religion, Catholicism, after they gentrified the red part of this map. A penitent as a concept, however, was a person that felt deep sorrow or remorse for wrongdoing / sin, where they would perform acts of penance to make amends for said wrongdoings. A capirote was seen as a form of humiliation for the wearer, and they were commonly paraded around in public during events like the Auto da Fe, which were straight up penance fests. Sometimes, if you were super heretic, they would just roast you alive, which, funnily enough, burning someone alive in a capirote is actually a blasphemous reference. And according to the Blasphemous Bible, aka the Blasphemous Art Book, y'all say blasphemous 3 times challenge, the devs cite the capirote as an essential part of the Penitent One's design, which was the point of origin that gave rise to the whole setting of Blasphemous and what led to them basing the game's aesthetic on the culture and folklore of southern Spain. It's also specifically mentioned a procession of flagellants was an inspiration behind the Penitent One's helmet. This piece was from a series of oil paintings made by Francisco de Goya, who was goaded with the brush and made heaps of other paintings that also inspired the Penitent one / the blasphemous setting as a whole. Hashtag burger for dinner. The year is 9 AD. And the Roman Empire is on the tail end of a legendary 50-0 win streak. But the future must not come to pass. Rome must fall. Rome's next opponent, underdog middleweight territory Magna Germania, or Germany for you modern chuds, was not about to lay down their life. Colossal upset ensues, aka the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. Arguably one of the most important defeats and events in European history, as Rome was late game at this point. Germany was the finishing touch of their GTA car collection, per se, so the Romans were not too happy when they got their asses handed to them and ate shit by a level 1 settlement and lost a bunch of junk. Nearly 2 millennium later, the masks worn by the Roman cavalry at the Battle of Teutoburg Forest is found and later inspires, you fucking guessed it, King Baldwin IV, aka the Leper King from epic blockbuster Kingdom of Heaven. Oh, and the Penitent one, I guess. The Roman cavalry mask is said to have inspired terror in their adversaries, who saw their own wounds reflected in the masks as they were trampled back to the lobby. The idea to dispossess the Penitent one of his face is cited as a conscious decision by the devs to grant him a halo of mystery, enormity, and aura? And speaking of Romans, remember that time they crucified the Son, or Prophet of God, depending how you look at it? Generously, the Romans bestowed upon Jesus a crown of thorns, making a mockery of a symbol for the divine and kingly, instead making it painful and humiliating. Also an ironic use of symbolism, as if the thorns represented humanity's sins and were weaved into a crown to mock the one who would shoulder that sin and later die for humanity's sins. Holy cinema level writing blasphemy. This idea of thorns being a manifestation of humanity's sins can be seen in the book of Genesis and through the story of Adam and Eve. After Adam eats the apple and God finds him clothed in the Garden of Eden, he scolds Adam and tells him that the ground is cursed and will produce thorns and thistles to symbolize that life will now involve toil, frustration, and difficulty and labor for his sins of eating the apple. Around the Penitent one's helmet is a strikingly similar crown of thorns that wreaths its way up to his tip. This isn't the only time thorns are used in the Penitent one's design. His tough as fuck sword is covered in thorn iconography. This sword is called the mea culpa, which is Latin for through my fault, which means my fault or my bad fault, and is an acknowledgement of having done wrong. The origins of the term can be linked back to a Western Christian prayer of sinfulness known as a confiteor. Editor, put that on screen. Fuck you, Garlos, I'll fucking kill you, stupid bitch. In the opening scene of Blasphemous, we see a woman asking for punishment from the miracle for her sins, and is hitting her chest with an image of the Twisted One, which, long story short, as mentioned earlier, was the first ever miracle in Custodia. The story goes that a young man full of guilt for one reason or another decided to sit on a log and ask for a punishment. The log he sat on began to twist and contort around his body, and his body twisted and contorted with it. This man became the Twisted One, and worshipped by the masses as the first ever blessing of the miracle, hence why he is referred to as the first miracle. The Twisted One is also referred to as the Father, and was a point of worship by the Brotherhood of Silent Sorrow. But going back to the opening scene of Blasphemous, the cries of the woman are mercifully heard by the miracle, and the Twisted One's effigy turns into a sword that impales her and turns her into stone. I don't really understand why she gets stoned, but the woman would afterwards be known as the Kneeling Stone, which is where the Penitent One retrieves the mea culpa from during the kneeling comic we went over earlier. The sword is a beautiful design that goes all out on the thorns, and upon meeting Deogracius for the first time, he gives you another thorn that is added to the handle of the mea culpa. This thorn's purpose is to harm the sword's wielder and to feed on their blood and guilt, and will eventually evolve throughout your playthrough of Blasphemous, eventually becoming the Custodia of Sin. Fun trivia fact I found at the bottom of the mea culpa wiki page is the clear reference of the mea culpa being drawn from the stoned woman is inspired by the legend of King Arthur. However, instead of a worthy hero drawing a bright and glorious sword to claim kingship, a lowly man riddled with guilt claims a dull thorned blade as a key to completion of his penance. And just like Excalibur, the mea culpa is a holy sword considering its origin. Yo, is this motherfucker crying? Me swearing IDGAF, but my chest is starting to feel tight. Nah, no way, he just put in the blasphemy reference in there. Oh man, my blasphemous fans. Nah, I love this reference. I know nothing of you, only the miracle knows Man, I should do voice acting for Blasphemous. One of the biggest questions that plagues the Blasphemous LARPers, such as myself, is the idle animations, or more specifically, this idle animation of the Penitent one. Why does the Penitent one cry? Well, everyone cries, duh. Real motherfuckers cry. But it's never exactly elaborated on why the Penitent one cries blood, so get ready for a little bit of theory crafting. But Blasphemous is heavily influenced by Catholic iconography, and just Catholicism in general. I mean, go figure. The first fight in Blasphemous is against super hard boss, the Warden of the Silent Sorrow, and once you defeat it, you get this beautiful cutscene in which we see a large cut in the side of the Warden. From this cut, the Penitent one fills his helmet with blood, and does a pseudo-baptism on himself with the blood of this beast. And tiny side tangent, but the Warden of the Silent Sorrow is referred to in the game files and Dia Gracias as
the anguish of the eldest brother has now come to an end.
Which, if we look at the key to the chamber of the eldest brother, which is a collectible you get later on, the part we want to look at is, this is my punishment as the eldest brother and guardian of this congregation, whose mystery is the silence of the father. I hear his lament, and I don't want to hear it anymore. I will have yours cover his. That is my penance. The eldest brother was clearly the leader of the Silent Brotherhood, meaning the first boss you fight is actually the fallen leader of the Penitent One's organization. This scene has so many things to break down it isn't funny. First, this is a baptism of the Penitent One, a baptism in the blood of a corrupted beast that was once the leader of his own order. This is the start of the Penitent One's true penance, starting by bearing the sins of all his dead comrades from the Brotherhood in the form of the Warden's blood. Another is that the scene actually refers to the death of Christ at the hands of the Romans. In Christian legend, there was a pretty much blind Roman centurion named Longinus. During the crucifixion of Christ, Longinus thrusts his spear into the side of Jesus, and some blood falls in Longinus's eyes, which cures him of his pretty much blindness. Upon clearing the blood from his eyes, he sees Jesus and is said to have felt the spark of God or something within him. So the story I like to believe is that the Penitent One's idle animation is in relation to the story of Longinus, but it is far more likely that the Penitent One cries blood because he filled his helmet with blood, and for the rest of the game he heals himself by smashing a bottle of blood against his helmet. So logically, his helmet could just be full of blood. The vials of blood that the Penitent One just can't stop getting his fix from are actually called bile flasks, which contain, you guessed it, blood. Bile flasks are also way cooler than Estus flasks. Throughout Blasphemous, you find empty flasks that need to be filled up at these pools of blood called sanguine fountains. Whose blood are you collecting? Look, it's not explicitly stated, but it is heavily implied through the lore blurbs of empty flasks that the blood is from a long-dead penitent. "Get up and tell us what you witnessed," said the scribe without averting his gaze from the paper. "I received an order from the exhumation of a penitent who had been buried about a year ago," answered the gravedigger. "He was well loved in Alborough, and many parishioners approached his grave. But when I dug him up, we saw blood coming out of the crack in his sarcophagus, blood red as wine. Those who were there rushed to the open lid of the coffin and carried him on their shoulders, watching as blood gushed from its side. Others ran to their houses, searching for buckets and bottles to keep all that blood that wouldn't stop flowing." So, I guess someone made a 2x2 with this guy's blood and made an infinite blood source for all the bros in Custodia. And miscellaneous Penitent One fact, silver is the metal that composes the Penitent One's armor and helmet, and in Christianity, silver is often attributed to Judas's betrayal of Jesus when he sold his mate out for like 30 pieces of silver, or like 30 shillings, or whatever they call it. Taking into account inflation, that could have bought you 2 Big Macs today. Hence, silver is symbolic of atonement and redemption. So now do you understand, fucking wanker? The Penitent One is the coldest Messiah in fiction and will swag for your sins. Hello, it is me, Happiest Blasphemous player. Like and subscribe if you're still here. This has taken me way too long to start, but I've been wanting to make Blasphemous videos since my TikTok days, but life just gets in the way, you know? But it's nice to see you again. I hope you've been well. But before I let you go, I want to read you a comment I found on Spanish Blasphemous Talk. Okay, context, the image on screen is the entire video, which was posted by Spectre Dan on TikTok, who makes such good Blasphemous meme images in 8-bit art too, like a true purist. Chrysanta, my friend, is a bit shy, but he's wondering if you would like to go for a walk through processions and go to the other side of the dream with him. I thought that was a pretty funny comment.